Hello, you lovely people. You're watching the Cheese Room podcast tonight with me, the caller, live from the man cave. And I have got some spiffing gentlemen with me this evening, two Yanks and an Aussie. So if international love is not your thing, then turn off now. If it is, on the other hand, stay tuned for a love fest because we love what Ange is doing at the moment and what Spurs are doing in the January transfer window. So we're going to cover all of that tonight. Transfers, Man United away. Man United away is possibly the only way the week could go wrong because it's been amazing, hasn't it? Dier's gone. Great servant to the club, but I think we all agree probably overdue. Two signings in, a wild card and a top-class centre-back, I'm told. So we'll be covering all of that off. Let us know where you're watching from in the chat. And do fire in your questions, fire in your super chats, hit the like button before you do out else, and make sure you subscribe to the show. Jack, wearing your beautiful Cheese Room merch, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Just hoping the tornadoes don't sweep me away during the show.
Yeah, you were saying global warming's really taking its effect in America, right?
Yeah, January is not tornado season around North Carolina, so it's a little weird. But this is the third time in a week we've had to worry about tornadoes. So hopefully it'll hold off the storms. Looks okay and calm right now. Wind's starting to pick up, but I think we're okay.
Well, calm as a bitch, and you caused it. So, you know, not you personally, but the American nation.
Fully accept that blame.
I mean, everyone says global warming.
Although the Industrial Revolution didn't occur here, it's on your little island, but that's fine.
The motherland. Of course, it's not all doom and gloom, is it? We get warmer summers. You know, it's quite nice actually. So I'm all for global warming.
I think Great Britain's going to be a great. It's going to be the wine mecca of the next century, given how warm it's getting.
We can grow wine. We can grow champagne. We can have tourists on our lovely beaches. Who doesn't want to see Bognor Regis or Blackpool in the summer? I'm sure. Wonderful hotspots. Speaking of wonderful hotspots, I see Stevie's in the chat, the man with zero carbon footprint whatsoever. Good evening to you, sir. Good evening to all our channel members. Also, causing global warming, we've got an Aussie. Cameron, you dig up the coal. How's it going?
Yeah, digging up a lot of coal, different parts of the country, and giving it to the world, to everybody. I don't know where I'm going with this, but hello from Angetown. All things summer down here, and I got a ticket to the tennis tomorrow night, so I'm looking forward to being at day one of the Australian Open. So all things good down here.
Oh God, we've got the pedants in the chat already. Yes, I know we can't grow champagne, but we can grow an equivalent sparkling wine. We'll just call it Cambridgeshire or something. Yeah. There we go. Also from the States, doing his bit to stay carbon neutral. It's Jack. How are you doing, Jack?
Very good. It's been a while. It's good to be back. There's a bit of drilling happening outside my window, so I might need to move locations in the apartment. So great intro, caller. I'll keep my intro brief.
Oh, it's a bit of drilling going on outside in Brooklyn. Well, there you go. He's gone already. Look at that.
Wow. Look at that picture. That is sweet.
That is a good picture. How old were you when that was done, Jack? About 10? Looks a long 12. Yeah, maybe. Looks a long time ago. Look, we should probably start by mentioning our sponsors, Football Prizes. They've got a signed Destiny Udogi shirt, signed and framed. Get on that as fast as you can. Patrons, if you're part of our Patreon, I believe there is a secret discount code, which is found in our group chat on Patreon. The only way you can get those wonderful discounts is to become a patron of the Cheese Room. We've got some wonderful stuff going on, including a ticket giveaway to a social in association with the Fighting Cock that is coming up. We've got all sorts of great stuff in the Patreon. Just trying to find the wonderful slide with my and Davo's embrace. I look shorter than him there, but I'm not. And you could get all of that for £3 a month. Cheese Room merch, but fantasy football prizes and competitions. The chat group, which is absolutely fantastic. And loads more. I mean, look, Jack is modelling the merch. So, it doesn't get much more on brand than that. So if you like what you see, head on over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/Cheese Room Podcast. Sign up, £3 a month. We haven't even increased it because of inflation. So there you go.
Brilliant.
Yeah, exactly. We probably should actually. We should probably look at that. But we haven't thus far. So take advantage of lock a year's membership in today. So let's talk about Man United, shall we? I've got a question for you guys, and Jack when he comes back. How many times in the last 31 meetings do you think we have beaten, or Manchester United have beaten us? Cameron, I'll go to you first.
In the last 31 times.
Do you want to phone a friend with that wonderful phone in the background?
Yeah, I will actually. Wait on.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm going. Okay, yep. 18 times.
18 times. Man United have beaten us 18 times. Jack, do you want to take a guess?
I was going to say 17.
Okay. So out of 31, the last 31 league meetings, Manchester United have won 24 times. 24.
I thought we would have got a few more draws in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's at Old Trafford, I should say. Draws.
At Old Trafford.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Delivered the punchline a bit late.
6-1 as well.
Yeah. All 4 of Tottenham's victories at Old Trafford have come in our most 11 recent visits. And we're seeking, this is a good stat. I like this one. There's some research gone into the run sheet. Respect to Dave for once. And I'll stick to the run sheet loosely tonight. But we're seeking to complete our first league double over United for the first time since the 1989-1990 season under Terry Venables. May he rest in peace. Incredible stats. Jack, we're just talking about how crap we are generally at Old Trafford. Would you care to give a view on this?
I sort of I ran a fan show on Monday, and I sort of, while everybody, was, basically waiting, which we'll talk about maybe if you haven't already, the Drăgușin deal, is a bit of the classic, battle of Levy out and, people trying to remain calm and people trying to not lose their brains. But of course, on Twitter, it was very, very toxic at the time. I was trying to find some sort of solace and say that this upcoming weekend could be the first time that we could ever, in my lifetime, definitely for sure, do the double over Man United. And what a world we now live in, that Spurs are even expected almost in a way to do the double over Man United this season. What a world we live in. Because when I would be asked by my my aunt or grandma or whatever it was, they would, when I'd see them once a year, they say, oh, what's like the highlight of the season so far? Because they never really cared what would be happening for Tottenham. So they would want a one-word answer of what maybe happened was good at the end of, like 9 months of a season. And I usually would say, oh, yeah, we beat Man United 2-1 with Gareth Bale. That was a terrific game. That was my highlight of the season. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
We did try and get a Manchester United fan on the show to preview the game with us. But unfortunately, with me being based in the Midlands, we couldn't locate one because they're all in London, apparently. So there you go.
It's true.
It's true. Look, if we're going to do it, then it's likely we're going to do it this season. Man United have won 8 and lost 7 of their 15 home games in all competitions this season, so are incredibly ropey. There's the league table. You can see they are 8 points behind us, and I've got a bet with a Man United fan at work that we'll finish above them in the league. He still thinks he's deluded. He still thinks they will.
That's adorable.
It is adorable. It's very cute, isn't it? Blind faith. Here's their recent form. So you can see that. I mean, they've had some strange old results, haven't they? So, beating Villa, which is probably the highlight of their season so far, which just shows how far they've fallen. Easy wins against Everton, a struggle to win against Luton. Got smashed by Bournemouth, but beat Chelsea. Everyone's doing that these days, let's be honest. Well, there were extenuating circumstances on that occasion. but losses to Forest, who are pretty awful, West Ham, a credible draw with Liverpool. Obviously, totally bombed out the Champions League, ruining our coefficient and meaning that we may not get a 5th place Champions League spot this season. Yeah, thanks, Man U. But, I just get the feeling with this one that they're going to be up for it. Got a few players returning, I think. I'm sure I've got the team news somehow. This is how they're looking to possibly line up. So Onana, what's his name, Cameron?
I have no idea when his first name.
Never mind. Onana, what's his name? No, okay.
No.
Wan-Bissaka returning from injury potentially. Varane, Evans still up. With Tomine, Menu, Garnacho, Fernandes, Rashford, and the goal machine that is Rasmus Højlund up front. I mean, I say this tongue in cheek, but he's bound to bang a hat trick in against us, isn't he? Brooklyn, Jack. Is this the least intimidating Manchester United team in your lifetime? Your very short lifetime?
Indeed, it is. I think I sort of don't really think it's that crazy to expect Spurs to dominate this Man United team for a couple of reasons, and maybe a lot of reasons. I think almost 1 through 11, I think our best 11 is definitely better than theirs. I do find it funny, just quickly, that Rasmus Højlund seems to be given all the time in the world when it comes to his sort of lack of scoring goals, but it feels like Richarlison, misses one chance and the whole world is about to explode. But he's probably had better numbers than almost every other striker that are in the, so-called top 6 type of clubs at this moment in time. So it really shows the narratives kind of at play here. But I think Man United are just devoid of any sort of kind of direction. They're sort of in a place that I think Spurs fans found themselves like 2 or 3 years ago, where we felt like there was no real leaders in the team. Recruitment was terrible. A lot of friction with the owners. There's a lot of similarities to where I think, Spurs fans had felt 2 or 3 years ago. But yeah, this is the worst Man United team I can probably say. And where Spurs really will dominate them, I think, is in that midfield. I think that kid Mainu is good, but they usually only leave one midfielder back there to defend that whole terrible back line. And it usually causes a lot of problems for Man United. So I look forward to us dominating that midfield. I think we really will.
They've got some returnees who may. This is the team against Wigan. They may jump in. So Casemiro's back, Martinez is back, Luke Shaw back. They're all back in training. They're probably not going to be fully fit and necessarily all starting. Anthony's available. Worried about him clearly. And Eriksen is back as well. So it's they've got a lot of players, a bit like us. They've got a lot of players returning January, February. And my Man United friends are basically bemoaning injuries, and I'm like, well, look, we wrote the book on injuries. But I think they are the second most. After us, they're the second most affected team in terms of number of games missed. They've got players that have missed a lot of games similar to us. So it's there are some extenuating circumstances, but Ten Hag is pretty shit, isn't he? 65 people watching, that's pretty shit, with only 27 likes. So hit the like button, please, all 65 of you. Chop. It costs you nothing. It takes a second, and it means I'll stop banging on about it. So it's in your interests, absolutely. Jack H. Man United, you're a bit older than Jack, Brooklyn Jack. Would it be fair to say we've seen better Manchester United teams?
Yes, it'd be very fair to say we've seen better Man United fans. The thing that gets me the most, which is alarmed almost, is that they've garnered 31 points from 22 goals scored. And so that's a feat that I can't even fathom how they've gotten those goals. Some people say a lot of assistance from officiating, but they seem to get results against Spurs. And as you said, 24 times out of 31, we've not been able to get any points at Old Trafford. So I kind of feel intellectually that we are right, Jack, that we are we should be able to dominate this team. They have no tactical identity. The one difference with Spurs is, I mean, when we lost all our players, we still had an identity. We still tried to play the system. We still tried to execute a game plan. And for the most part, it worked. Man United, I've never seen a more lost bunch of players not just seeming to react to every situation. I don't see any tactical game plan, and I don't know that I should expect anything different Sunday, even with returning players. I mean, Shaw could come in, Casemiro could come in, but none of those players, strike fear, even if they are fully healthy. Obviously, the game at Tottenham, they really did have their chances, and if it weren't for Vicario, that game could have been a much different game at halftime. But still, all year they've been not at the races, in my opinion. It's not a lack of talent. I think they've got good players. I just don't think Ten Hag really knows what he's doing with this bunch. And I don't feel that if we don't come away with anything, that won't surprise me, but it won't be because they're all of a sudden brilliant. It's going to be a failure on Tottenham's part.
Yeah, we've got a lot of players out as well, haven't we? I mean, obviously we've got our two new boys are straight in for contention, but Romero has only just. I was listening to Angie's presser on the way home. Romero's only just started training, so he's not going to feature. If he does, he'll be on the bench. Ben Davis, obviously, 7 out of 10. Ben is now out for a month with a hamstring injury, whereas Mr. Glass, Giovanni Lo Celso, Cameron, again. He's got a worse injury record than me on a Tuesday night. I don't quite know what he is. Literally made of glass, isn't he?
He is. I think he's the new Darren Anderton, the new sick note. Wouldn't you agree?
No, it's just I don't remember. I'm too young to remember Darren Anderton.
Yeah, it looks like means Kulu's going to obviously come into the centre. Look, we're a patchwork quilt, aren't we? We're essentially going up there. Ange has had half a team all season, nothing different. But as the other guys have reiterated too, they've worked to a system and an identity which Ange has impressively put on them within the first few months. So that is what will win us the game, essentially, is our belief, identity, and determination, because I think we've shown that for the rest of the season. Have we been lucky? Yes. But I think also we've worked our bollocks off to get where we are as well.
Just sticking with you, Cameron, why do you think it is we have such an appalling record at Old Trafford? I mean, if you go back, last season we just didn't turn up at all, did we? And I think, was that the game that Ronaldo took over, or was that the season before? I can't quite remember. I think it was last season, wasn't it?
Was it last season or the season before?
Either way, I know the last two trips to United have been shit. We don't seem to ever turn up there. I suppose that's my point. There's one game I remember during COVID where we under Mourinho, of all people, where we absolutely smashed them 6-1, wasn't it? But
6-1 is also a 3-0 that Lucas Moura had, maybe a brace or just one. I remember there was a 3-0.
But we just seem weak when we go there, don't we? And Old Trafford hasn't got an intimidating crowd. I wouldn't say it's the prawn sandwich brigade, as Roy Keane would famously put it. Cameron, why do you think we're so weak up there?
Mentality. I also think when in Ferguson's halcyon years, he installed a mentality and an identity which he really couldn't shake. Even some of these Ferguson teams weren't amazing on paper, but they got the result just by virtue of mentality alone. It's kind of weird in the reverse worlds now, because Ange has got that mentality instilled on the team, and United's now what Tottenham was in the last probably 20 years. So it's, to me, because I think we've had talented teams over the years, but I think we've just never had that set identity as what we've got now.
Choked it against Big Six teams, Brooklyn, Jack, do you think it's fair to say?
I don't know. I think certain teams we seem to be able to put up always a good fight against. For example, Man City, if we played every single week, we'd probably win the Premier League. But if it were like Chelsea, I would say is more so of a bogey team, I think, in our case, because even when we played fantastic, I've seen us drop points in some sort of manner to Chelsea. I've seen them play absolutely terribly and still get a point or somehow upset us, whether it's home or away. Man United, on the other hand, I think we have done well against them recently, especially at home, but maybe more so away from home, like, yeah, last season I remember was a pretty terrible performance on the most part. And I remember Antony, that might have been his only good game ever for Man United, I felt like, was in that one against Spurs. But I don't know. Is it mentality? I'm not sure. Like, I think Man United maybe away from home. We've even like the season before that, like Ronaldo had that hat trick or whatever it was. But I remember we had actually played really well in that game. And I think if it wasn't for Ronaldo being Ronaldo, I think we actually would have won that game. So I would say Man United, maybe I don't see as much of a bogey team as other teams of the top 6. But for sure, we've gotten unlucky in the past against them away from home. But I wouldn't say I'm as unoptimistic. I'm usually optimistic against them. I feel like we always snag a win either at home. Maybe it seems to happen at home a lot when we snag a win against them.
Yeah, it's not been a historically happy ground for us, I don't think. But it does feel different this season, Jack H. It feels like I think you hit the nail on the head, Cameron. There's an identity to Spurs, and we're not intimidated by these teams. And actually, they won't choke it, and they will go up there and perform, even with all the players and absentees we've got.
Yeah, I think that we did the double over City and got a goose egg against Man United, right? I mean that is the deal. We have had trouble with United, not because of their skill. I don't know. I think mentality, I guess, is the only thing you can attribute it to, because there's no explanation. Even Poch didn't have a great record against the top 6. We did fine against United, but Chelsea, Liverpool, United, Arsenal, we'd split, of course, because that's the derby. But we didn't have great records with some of the best teams in a generation. And United was always a team that we struggled with. And I think that this is a test. This is a test to see has mentality shifted, even with the missing players. Can we go up there and win with a front line of Werner, Richarlison, and Johnson most likely, and no Maddison? I mean, if again, this team doesn't score, Man United doesn't score a lot of goals. So I feel like if you can literally, you can get 1, maybe 2, you should walk away with a victory. But still, it's going to be interesting to see how they play, because this seems to be a historic ground, like you're saying, that we just don't do well with. And to be fair, no team in the Premier League has a great record at Old Trafford. I mean, that's not unique to Spurs. I mean, they're United, for crying out loud. But this is definitely the opportunity to get a double. Because this, as we said, it's got to be the weakest team that United has put on the pitch, regardless who's healthy. I think in a few years, vis-a-vis what we can put on the pitch, even with the missing players, I still feel better about our system if they'll play and forget their at Old Trafford playing against Man United. If they'll just forget that and play their game, we're a much better team. Period. That's all there is to it. Doesn't mean we get 3 points, but we're a better team.
Yeah. Okay. Other Jack, do you think United will rue sending back Sergio Reguilon?
In their particular case, I don't know if they care that much. I stand up for Reggie more than other people do. I don't think he was really as bad as people think. I actually think one of Reggie's best attributes, funny enough, is actually crossing. Whenever I have watched him play, I do think he puts in a very accurate cross. Seems to actually be able to look up compared to most players before he crosses it, knows who he's trying to pick out. Whereas a lot of players these days do sort of whip it in kind of blindly and just sort of hope for the best. And Reggie, I think, has always been, probably shows by his assists, actually. If you look at some of his assists over his career, he actually does whip in a decent cross. Does he have some defensive liabilities? Yes. But I think he would probably do a decent job, actually, as sort of a backup left back in worst case scenario. I'm not saying he's the answer for the future. I think I'd probably look to sell him in the summer, but I think he probably wouldn't be a bad-eyed person to keep around. Seems to like being around. A lot of the other Spanish speakers seem to enjoy his presence, and they always wish him a happy birthday. And he does that the same for them. So I don't know. He seems to keep in touch with Spurs. He doesn't hate Spurs compared to Gio Lo Celso. Whereas one of the amazing things about Ange Postecoglou is Ange Postecoglou somehow got Gio Lo Celso to somehow like Spurs again, which I think seemed impossible at one stage, because he really showed as much as he could, that he didn't play for Tottenham Hotspur. But now he's showing a bit of affection towards us. Whereas Reguilon, despite all the loans and maybe some of the abuse that he's gotten, he seems to, find it okay here. So I'd be happy to keep him for 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, look, Lo Celso, the Chelsea, however you say it, He's made a glass. I laughed a lot when I was listening to Angie's press conference because they were like, "Yeah, Ben Davies, he's done his hamstring. Lo Celso, we don't quite know what the problem is. He's going to go to the doctor because we don't actually know what the issue is." And I'm thinking, well, surely like he can point to the part of his body that's hurting, and you can have a guess, man. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, like in ice hockey over here, it's upper body injury or lower body injury, and they don't get more specific than that, but you can at least tell it's above or below the waist.
That's a good
point.
Of course, Jim Radcliffe apparently is going to come and save Man United, and it's his first. Did you know Jim Radcliffe's first home game since buying a 25% stake? What else do Ineos put money into? Do you think, Cameron?
What is what? Sorry,
you're Australian. You're hot on your petrochemicals. Ineos. What else do they put money into? Do you think?
I have no idea. I've never heard of them.
Either of the Jacks? No.
Well, it's a chemical company, isn't it?
Well, it is, but
but I don't know.
Is the answer? They sponsor Spurs. There's a slight conflict.
Are you joking?
This because no, I'm deadly serious. They are official transportation partners of Tottenham Hotspur.
I did not know that.
They do a range of, I think it's Land Rovers that they basically pimp and put their own badging on. And Ineos are our someone will correct me in the chat in a minute. It's Volvo or something, I don't know. But they sponsor us. Yeah, they're like the official Land Rover version.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Sponsor of Spurs.
I didn't know that. The current affairs caller we've got here.
So Jim, we've got a sponsor for everything. Toilet paper, soap.
You're joking.
No, I'm serious.
No,
Molten
that used to. Yeah,
Molten
people
Brown
used to get riled up about that. When
Molten
we
Brown
would
is the
announce a
official
new sponsor,
sponsor.
people used to get riled up in the comments. Yeah.
I'll be honest, if anyone from Molten Brown's watching, I am partial to the coastal fragrance. So if you want to reach out and sponsor the Cheese Room, hit us on the Twitter handle. We have an official soap sponsor and everything. Yeah. Andrex do the toilet rolls. I made that up. Yeah, that'll set the purple and gold till the club is sold group off. Yeah, right. Let's move on and let's talk about Spurs then. So, how do you? There's no slides for this. You'd be relieved to know. So we'll just freestyle it. Jack H, how do you think we're going to line up?
Well, I'd say I don't even think Romero's traveling. I might have misunderstood. So that I assume that means the question really is there's only a few positions you're really going to worry or wonder about. Is that right center back? Is that going to be Emerson? Are they going to put Drăgușin straight in? I would say based on his limited...
but I'm going to interrupt you because I need you to fill till I get to the beer tap and back. So pass this around.
Will do. So, I mean, I think that based on the history of Van de Ven coming straight in after 3 training sessions, I think Drăgușin's gotten the same number. I don't see any reason why he doesn't slot him straight in opposed to Emerson. And I can't make any opinion on that whatsoever because I've never seen the guy play outside of YouTube. So I'm going to assume that Drăgușin comes in. Of course, the rest of the lineups in the back four and the goalkeepers plays, everyone knows what's going to be there. Van de Ven will be in, and we have Bogey and Porro. The midfield obviously is the question mark. I mean, Bentancur is going to come in. My feeling is that, Pierre should play because Bentancur and Pierre have played a lot of games together. They know each other pretty well. They actually play well together. And I would bring Kulusevski in at the 10, and then you'd have Johnson, Richarlison, and Werner. The only question is, does he play Pierre knowing that he's potentially on the way out? So he's going to play Skip instead because at least he knows he's going to probably stick around for the rest of the season. Ange has had a habit of seemingly playing the people he knows are going to be here, even if they're not most ideally suited for a specific game. But if you were just to say, let me get the 11 on the pitch that are the best suited to play against United for just getting the maximum points we possibly can, I'd have to play Pierre with Bentancur, and that's the lineup I would have. I don't know what you think, Cameron, what your thoughts are.
I was going to give you the exact same lineup. I think he would put Pierre in there, given that January is a unique month with not as many matches, I understand the complexity around the transfer situation, but I think he's probably looking at this match in and of itself, because I personally think Spurs are going to sign possibly one more player, whoever that is, and at what position, I don't know. But we all know there's players on the cusp of returning. So I think he's going to have Pierre ahead of Skip there. And yeah, I think they'll play Richarlison at striker, Werner at left wing. So for this game, that might change, but I'm pretty much replicate what you were going to say there as well. I was going to have Lo Celso in, but when I wake up this morning hearing about Lo Celso, I was like, oh, he's out. And then Kulusevski bring him into the centre. So yeah, I agree with what you said.
I feel like it's going to be either Romero or Drăgușin in that right-sided center back role. I think the fact that Ange did mention that Romero had trained recently is sort of, I don't know, a bit of housery or something sort of the injury front.
He did.
I think it is.
He did. He did.
Out of nowhere comes the caller.
I'm here. I've been listening. He did. He said he's at the very early stages of training. He trained once.
Yes.
But he's not up to speed.
Well, but that's what I mean, though. I think it was sort of a comment that was sort of to maybe throw Ten Hag off. Like, my guess is that he could be saying that just to throw Ten Hag off, knowing that Romero could be injured, but he also could be available. And Romero, we were told in the beginning of the week, was pushing to try to be available for this game. And I think with Ange Postecoglou saying that, it just sort of keeps Ten Hag in sort of on edge, whether he wants to, change his game plan or not, depending on Romero's fitness. And he probably would, depending on Romero's fitness, if it was Romero and Van de Ven back. So
do you think
I think it's going to be Romero or Drăgușin, personally. I think Romero could possibly be fit for this one.
I mean, I don't see it.
He did it before. He didn't say anything about the Bentancur.
Yeah, I agree.
He brought Bentancur into the team.
I completely get that, but he did seem to rule Romero out in the press conference today.
I think he did, yeah.
So I genuinely don't think Donnelly and Dorrington are not going to play. But I saw in the chat there, I saw the same thing here that Kulu might be out. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I don't know where King's getting that. What's your source, King?
Wasn't in the press.
I've not heard that.
But
was it? I mean, I didn't see the press conference. I was at work and I haven't dialed in, but I haven't heard anything about Kulu.
I mean, I think the dragon will be unleashed at right centre back. Personally, what a dream game to come into. I hope Romero is playing, but I'd rather if we've brought right centre back cover in, I'd rather that he plays than risk Romero doing himself a mischief, or more likely someone else a mischief. Last word.
Last word on Spurs. That's gospel right there, baby. That's gospel.
I don't know anything.
When's our next game? After United?
2 weeks.
The cup game.
So
FA Cup, isn't it? City, I think.
Yeah. So why would you? I mean, I get the risk, but if you've got 2 more weeks and there's recuperation for a number of players, why would you risk them if they're underdone?
What do you mean? Sorry.
Well, if say you said Romero's just starting to train, why would you put him into the,
I wouldn't, Cameron. I wouldn't. You've just signed a right centre back who's going to be highly motivated. Imagine this from his perspective. He's just signed in the Premier League. There's a lot of hype. It's his dream debut away at Old Trafford. The guy's going to be playing out of his skin. I would throw him into the match.
Oh, yeah, no. Absolutely. Dragon, yeah.
I certainly wouldn't be risking Romero if he's got any kind of fitness doubt, personally. Not while he's got... The greater question to me, I mean, Van de Ven's the one that worries me. So he's not played a minute since, obviously, tearing a hamstring. He's had a few weeks training. I just hope he's ready because, we can't do without him. He needs to only come back when he's ready. But then with Ben Davis being injured, Danny Davis out, that's going to really hurt us, isn't it? Because who else is there that can play left centre back? Jack.
I think that. Oh, go ahead, Jack.
Sorry,
no,
Brooklyn Jack. I was going for.
Okay.
I will come
you don't need to ask me about Daddy Davies. I mean, I'm not as kind to Ben Davies, so maybe you should ask the other Jack. But I think he did a great job, during that timeout. Who's our other left-sided center back? It probably is still him. Maybe if Drăgușin can play on the left side, that'd be great. I would say he did play through the middle a lot in a back three, and then oftentimes was found as well on the left-sided center back spot of a back three as well. Not saying that means he can play in a back four, just saying, he's perhaps played on the left side of some sort of defensive formation at some stage.
Yeah, I mean Dorrington, to me, I know there's a lot of clamour to play Dorrington and Donnelly. I just don't see either of them getting minutes unless we're comfortably winning games, because I think throwing them in Premier League is just a different level.
This is exactly correct. 100%. He hasn't played a minute of senior professional football. You don't throw him in an away game in Old Trafford. I mean, I think that I agree with you, Jack, that I think from what I understand, Drăgușin could play on the left side. If Romero were fit, you could throw Romero on the left side and play Drăgușin on the right, actually.
That too.
I mean, that's clearly, but to your point, if Romero's not completely clear to play, then you don't want to push it. We are in a situation where we are again still razor thin. One bad knock, one bad tackle, one bad strain, and we're now got Emerson, at left center back, or Dorian. Because again, we sent Phillips out, we sent Dier out. I mean, I'll tell you, Ange is a gunslinger because he does not care. He does. If you're not part of his plans, you're out, and he's not worried about cover. You're not worried about anything. So I mean, I guess that's his call. I mean, that's what he gets paid to do. So I would say that it's tough. I mean, I hope that Drăgușin can play 90, and Van de Ven doesn't have to do much work because we just are all over him, and all he's doing is mopping up and not having to chase much down. That's what I hope.
Well, his hamstring's going to get a test, though, isn't it? Because you've got Ganacho up there who's got pace, you've got Rashford who's got pace. And we play a high line. That ball is going to come in over the top. His hamstrings will absolutely be tested. I tell you that now. If assuming Van de Ven comes back into the starting 11, he's got to be ready because he is going to be at top speed for a lot of that game. Let's just hope there's no long VAR interludes because I'm still pretty convinced that that's the reason he tore it. But
you don't think it's the medical team? I don't want to send you down that rabbit hole.
The medical team. I've heard some crap in my life, but the conspiracy theories that our medical team is crap are amongst the most ridiculous.
Okay.
Sure. And aliens killed JFK.
The reality is with VDV, if he was to come in and/or Romero, is they're not playing a full 90 as well. Let's be honest. Like, I do see...
They can. There's a strong chance he can because he has been in training for 4 to 6 weeks, Van de Ven.
At high intensity, in game time intensity.
Well, I don't know because Andrew's training sessions are pretty wild.
I'm sure they are, but it's still a training session. I get it. I agree with you. But you're telling me United's not going to put him under pressure, knowing that he's probably not 100%. Of course they are. They're going to try and pick the weaknesses.
Yeah, and where are the weaknesses, Cameron?
Well, Van de Ven, going...
I think you guys are babying him a little bit. Like, he's, at the end of the day, he's paid to, have his hamstrings tested. He's paid a handsome wage to be able to be ready for these sort of occasions. Like, and they monitor him like he's, a newborn baby, practically, these sort of high-performance athletes. Like, even in the case of the lodge that they occasionally stay in, right? They have like the lightweight of the bathroom or whatever, it's like, lit up at night so they don't trip.
No,
like, I think if they think Van de Ven is ready, I think Van de Ven is ready.
It just worries me more to the point because
especially if you trust the med team, which I don't, then he's definitely ready.
But hamstrings never heal, as it's a soft tissue injury. So I get why he's been training. I'm not denying that he probably couldn't, but it wouldn't be 100%. So I get he's been training, but you can only do so much in training when you're going into the duress of a game time situation. So I get the whole babying factor, but hamstrings, and I've seen it in Aussie rules here, they're very much a recurring injury if you don't give it the long duration of time for recuperation. And for what he did, I thought it was off the bone or like a proper tear and a half. I don't know the exact injury, but I thought, gee, you're giving that a few months.
Grade 2, I think it was. Grade 2.
Yeah, so it's like my uncle's a sports doctor and he's an expert in hammies, and he's done a lot of the Aussie rules teams here, and basically he says that hammies never heal. And you have to give a certain period of time for each grade of hamstring. So I need to research on what he's done and see whether he's coming back too early or not. Because when I did see that initially occur, I thought, yeah, there's a few months out for that. So I just didn't know what grade he was at.
Yeah, I mean, I think this point Steve makes is kind of funny. I mean, I'm being a little facetious here, but a little bit of me says play Van de Ven, because if they get over the top, you know what Højlund or Antony or Garnacho or Rashford v Vicario, I like my chances. I mean, you know, I don't back any of those forwards to really be. I'm more worried about a cross, you know, from Fernandez, or him getting loose at the top of the box and burying, you know, upper 90 with a worldie, than I am any of those guys getting through on goal. I'll be honest with you. I back Vicario to bail us out a few times. He's going to play probably pretty high line himself and be a bit of a sweeper keeper, so that you're not getting a lot of, you know, 50, 60 yard sprints from your center backs. I could be wrong, but that's kind of my thought.
Yeah, I mean, my 11 would be obviously Vicario, Porro, Udogie pick themselves. You got to play Van de Ven because there's literally no other left centre back option. Dragustin would be on the right centre back, because I don't think he's ruled Romero out, from what I understand. I hope, by the way, Jackie comes in. I hope I'm wrong, but
no, it's just a prediction, you know, that I think Ange could.
And I will take your prediction and smile when I'm right. Midfield, I think again it pretty much picks itself. You've got to have Kulu as the advanced midfielder, and you know, defence-wise, probably got to have Højbjerg in there. Sorry, Jack, you're going to have to have Højbjerg in there. It's Højbjerg or Skip for the other place, isn't it?
Yeah,
yep. Or Donnelly.
Donnelly's not going to play.
No, he's not.
You know, let's keep it real. Why on earth would you put Donnelly? Again, if Kulu's injured and you've got literally no other choice,
right?
Then I get it. Bentancur will be the deep lying midfielder. Because he can break a press, and I think having Højbjerg in there helps, actually, because obviously he's tough tackling, he breaks up a lot of play, whereas Kulu doesn't really give you that. I think it's going to be Werner on the left, Johnson on the right, and then Richie up top. But as you say, we're threadbare and thin. Paul Muir's making a point. Van de Ven has done this hamstring before, missed 3 months in Europe. That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's a recurring kind of injury.
Well, when you're fast as well, like he is, you know, you're more prone to it, aren't you? I mean, I know as an athlete, being so speedy,
you're such a specimen, caller. Such a specimen.
Such a piece of work, I thought you were going to say. Yeah, would be more accurate. Yes, Jack is here, and if you like watching him on YouTube, then do hit the like button. That'd be lovely, and subscribe while you're here. Yeah, okay. Werner, I haven't had the opportunity to talk to all of you people, you lovely people, about Timo Werner yet. Let us know your thoughts on this transfer in the chat. I think it's personally, I'm enthused by it because Werner has pace to burn, a point to prove. And let's face it, how many forwards have Chelsea wrecked? He was absolutely shit. His first time round at Leipzig, he was shit hot. He was a really good player. He ripped us to pieces, you know, in the Champions League. I think he can be fantastic for us. Jack H. Werner, I'm going to ask you all your opinion on this. Fan or not a fan? Do you think he can do a job for us? Obviously, with Sonny out, that's a big deal.
I mean, I'm not a fan. I appreciate what he brings to the table. I think that he flourished in a system with Nagelsmann and a team that was really, you know, well suited to him. And I hope that is the type of system that we can give him a similar platform. I don't have high hopes. I think if you get 3 goals, 2 or 3 assists out of him, I mean, he was brought in as a temporary replacement in my mind, because we have to have bodies. And, you know, we can all love Brian Hill, Jack, Brooklyn Jack. But the reality is he's not going to get it done in the Premier League. He needs to find another place to play. I don't have anything against him, but he's not. We can't have both Johnson and Hill as your wingers. You're not going to do anything in the Premier League. So you bring him in to cover for Son. He can also cover for Richie. He can also play on the right if you have to. He services a good need. And to your point, if someone will teach him the offsides rule, then by definition, he can threaten defenses. He can get behind. He can definitely cause problems. And he works hard. As far as you want to press him forward, he'll do what Son does at a quicker pace, and he'll do it for longer. So I think he fits pretty well. I just have very low expectations for him. I would be surprised if he does well enough to earn a permanent transfer. But if he does, then it's a home run, because for 15 million euros or whatever the buyout is, if you can get a guy who is your fourth forward, then I think that's a home run. It's good business. It's smart business. They got it done early. So I credit the club. I credit the recruitment department in getting it done. I just have very modest hopes for him, but I'm open to being, pleasantly surprised.
Coy's Daniel. Yeah. Chat, Werner. You watch a lot of European football. You'll know all about him.
Yeah, I think at one stage he was probably one of the most hot strikers, or one of the most household name strikers across Europe before he had moved to Chelsea. That's where I actually feel a bit bad for him, that his time there sort of has really, just sort of scarred him, I think, in terms of his kind of maybe judgment or reputation now. But you really do have to look back at his numbers. Like, he scored over 100 something odd Bundesliga goals, like with pretty much, I think, 3 or 4 different managers. Like, he actually scored goals under, of course, Nagelsmann at Leipzig, but also Hasenhüttl when Hasenhüttl was first bringing up Leipzig through the various leagues of the Bundesliga. He also scored goals under Ralf Rangnick. He's pretty much been one of the best Leipzig strikers. I mean, of course, they also have a very short history, that club, but he's basically been their best ever striker pretty much in their history, and probably for a long time, really. Like, he has a terrific record in the Bundesliga. And he also, to a degree, like, you don't have to really teach him sort of the fundamentals of pressing or the fundamentals of working hard off of the ball and playing this kind of direct as well as very fast-paced type of play, because he's learned that through, like I said, 3 different managers in Hasenhüttl, Rangnick, and Nagelsmann, but also just playing in the Bundesliga in general. Like, most of the teams do play a pretty similar way, and there is a real high tempo to everything. And I think that's what's also nice, is I don't think Werner is going to be all that confused or disillusioned by this sort of fast style of play, whereas someone like Drăgușin, for example, could be for a little bit, because he's come from a very defensive team in Genoa, who pretty much have the lowest possession stats of anybody in the entire Serie A. So I think this will be a move that could actually work out for a number of reasons. But Werner, I think, sadly, is weirdly, like, maybe rightfully so, because he had a terrible time at Chelsea, but I do feel bad for him. Like, if I had scored over 100 goals for, the Bundesliga, and, I was then being kind of made a laughing stock, I think that would be kind of harsh. I think he's, clearly at one stage was one of the best strikers in Europe, and maybe one day he can get half as close to that sort of form, and we would be, very lucky to have him for that. Like, it seems like he went through an initial bloom. He had a great early bloom in his career, now is going through a bit of a neutral sort of spell, or a down spell. Maybe he could bloom again. He's only like 27 years old too, so there's still at least
years.
I
was going to say, if we end up signing him for 15 million quid, or around that figure, it's a bargain if he can deliver. Absolute bargain. I mean, you look at what he's done. He scored goals, and he knows where the net is. Now, I know Chelsea had a rough time, but like I say, Chelsea ruined strikers left, right, and centre. Very excited about it. Not very excited about this time. Getting a bollocking in the chat by the admin. 150 watching, 62 likes. A terrible ratio. So please, to shut John up, can you all just stop what you're doing? Smash the like button right now. That would be fantastic.
Hey, caller. One thing I will say that I hadn't, but Werner is nice about, is it seems that the outball for Tottenham more times than not is on the left side. because Sonny has been there the last couple months. And so when we need just to get it out, we're popping it more to the left because we trust that side to hold the ball rather than Johnson on the right when Krula's not up there. So the nice thing is if the out ball still is going to be the left side, again, Timo's faster than Son is at this point. And if you can get that ball between the fullback and the center back, he's in. And so you can get up pitch really, really quickly. So I like the signing. I just don't have just modest expectations for goal involvement with him. Just because if you were crossing it to someone even, 2/3 of Harry Kane's ability, that'd be one thing. But again, Richarlison is what he is. And I just don't know if he's going to get, a lot of assists, and I just don't trust him in front of goal yet. We'll see. I mean, I'm hoping. I like the signing. I'm just not thinking he's anything more than cover for a couple months than a permanent addition to the squad.
I do think though, Ange is one of his best qualities as a manager, probably globally as well. Why he's one of the top managers is his man management and his developing of players. Look what he's done with Porro this season. I do think Ange knows what he's doing this with Werner. I do think he's going to, like he's done with the whole team, being like a father figure. He's going to obviously probably take him aside, probably develop certain aspects there to obviously bring the best out in Ange ball. Whatever the outcomes are for the period of time that he's here, I hope it's positive. But Ange is a great developer of talent. And even if he is at 27, Ange is probably going to set him aside and go, position here, go here. This is how I want you to play in my system. Like, I know all managers do that, but Ange has got a great track record of developing players far above their talent. So, yeah.
Welcome to
That's
Ali.
a good point.
News. I hope that's not a Liverpool bird. Looks a bit like one. There you go.
Might be a drag. I don't know.
Welcome to the cheese room. Yeah, maybe Welsh or a Drăgușin fan, the Dragon. So look, I think this is a signing. I know it was covered previously on the show, but I do want to cover it off again. So we beat Bayern Munich to the defender, sending them Eric Dier the other way. I think we might have had the better. Romania, very good. Welcome to the cheese room. Thanks for joining. Drăgușin looks the business. Jack, again, I will bow to your superior European football knowledge. Probably building you up a bit more than you deserve there, but you've probably watched him for far more than me. What's he going to bring to the table?
Well, I found out we were linked to him probably a few weeks before it actually happened. And the loser that I am, I think I was on a plane ride and I decided to watch one game of Genoa.
And this is why I asked you. This is why I asked you.
And what I found very funny was being linked, like I said earlier, with a guy who plays for a team that was only just promoted from the Serie B and plays for a very defensive, well-organized team. Like Genoa are actually your sort of typical kind of punching above so-called, I guess, their weight really in sort of the Serie A. Like I think they're pretty much established mid-table at this moment in time, yet they have like some of the most depressing stats when it comes to having any sort of possession of the ball or any sort of creativity. They've created some of the fewest chances, have had some of the least possession. Drăgușin has had some of the most touches of anybody in the team, despite also having, some of the least possession. It's been like a very defensive, sort of kind of counter-attacking type team that he seems to play for, and also very long ball oriented as well. So I sort of found that to be interesting that we were like kind of connected to him because, maybe he hasn't exactly played that way in a while, but he's very, very young. He was brought in by Paratici when he was over at Juventus at the time. He's only 21 years old. He could become a homegrown, I think, for us, after this season and qualify as that. He's very good in the air from what I can tell from the stats and everything as you bring up there. And we haven't exactly had somebody. I think Romero is improving like a lot in sort of his aerial ability, but I would say we haven't had anybody that's been really that terrific in the air for a while now. And he's also been good in the air, I think, both going forward and defensively, because he scored a few goals, like from what I can tell as well. So that's a good sign that maybe we could have a set piece threat. And we haven't had a guy with a man bun in a long time as well. It's been a while since we've had any players.
Bale.
Yeah, Gareth Bale the last time. And, I think you always, Nasser Chadley as well at one stage. So I think you always need a guy with a man bun in any team. So Drăgușin, welcome in.
Yeah. Yeah, the man bun's not for me. I'll be honest. I think he needs a short back and sides or a Cameron cut. But personally, but he's a young, good-looking guy. I'm sure he knows what he's doing with his hair, and definitely doesn't need someone at Vice with a barnet like mine. Look, I think on paper looks an exciting signing. Cameron looks like he's got bags of potential now.
Yeah, look, physical. I've had a quick look at him this week. Stats in the set piece headers is incredible, which we need. But he looks like a physical specimen, which is it's welcome in the back line, and hopefully he has the speed to back up as well. I've only watched a couple of YouTube videos there of my research, but he does look like a quality centre back. But he's going to have a quick baptism of fire by going up to Old Trafford, that's for sure.
He's certainly, as someone put it, he's certainly a bit of a unit. He's a big lad. And from the highlight reels I've seen, he's fast, isn't he? And I guess he's got the physical attributes. He's good in the air. He seems to be very good at slide tackling. He's got the aggression of Romero with the pace of Van der Ven. Young and hungry, wants to make his name. And look, the fact that Bayern were interested in him as well is that you would think the guy's got pedigree, right, Jack?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think this point of our new subscriber is a good one. He didn't grow up playing Romanian football. He wasn't bred in that system. He came up in the Italian system with Juve. I do next level English mention that is questionable on the ball. His statistics show that he's questionable on the ball. Again, not having been an expert watching the guy play, but talking to a few people who have, Genoa doesn't play with the ball in the center back's feet. That's just not what they do. So he hasn't had to do that. And same thing with the loan he had in Serie B. So my feeling is that I trust in our recruitment right now and trust in Ange if he thinks this kid can do what he needs to do, because he's got all of the attributes, everything you could possibly want to play in the system. And I think that, like you mentioned earlier, Cameron, defense and playing in our systems about confidence and coaching. And as long as the guy backs himself and he's not a head case, he keeps a calm head about him, you can learn to play with the ball. You can learn the patterns of play. You can find, okay, this is my out ball when this situation. Here's where I'm going in this situation. It's just drilling and drilling and drilling until it becomes secondary, because he has all of the physical attributes you need. So I'm excited about this signing. I am thrilled about this signing. I think it is huge. And if you think about where we were, just think about what we are putting on the pitch as a defense, 12, 13 months ago. And now we're looking at this as our first line primary defenders. I mean, it is night and day. I mean, it is not even close. There's only one of these people on the screen who was on the playing squad 12 months ago. And in 12 months, this team's completely redone its defense and its back five and everything. And I think that, get a couple more squad players in to replace the aging Davies. Emerson's fine to stick around. I think he's great, but add one more or so. Let the young kids come through, if it's Dorrington or Phillips or whatever. Great. I think we're in great shape for 3 years coming. I think we're in fantastic shape on the defensive side.
Can I hone in on something that you
can. You certainly can, Jack. I just want to say something. The redemption arc of Fabio Paratici is complete. Jack.
I don't think there was no redemption arc at all. I think people just took a while to realize what he was cooking and what he's been doing this whole time, which is saving this football club from what Steve Hitchen was sending us down. But that's a whole nother tunnel for me to get down.
Yeah, bring it back up.
But what Jack H had honed in on something that I really wanted to emphasize. A lot of people did have a lot of concerns about Drăgușin's sort of passing stats, but as much as I'm a Yank and I love the stats as well, you do have to provide some sort of context to them in the fact that if you are playing for a team that has the lowest possession and some of the lowest creative stats of any team in your league, it's going to be impossible to look good, actually, really, in a lot of the possession sort of stats whatsoever, because you have so little of the ball compared to anybody else in your league who plays in that similar position. So you're just never going to be able to really outshine or really compare all that well when it comes to it. So like a lot of times when you hear when you hear people say take stats with a grain of salt, really, that would be a good example, because how on earth is he supposed to look good in a team like, for example, I don't know, Everton or somebody who pretty much loves to not have the ball and love to sit with 20% possession? You're never going to look great, in terms of possession stats when you play in a team like that. So a lot of context is always, I think, needed before we, jump on a train of whether he can't pass or not, type of thing.
I think you need to see him, and I think you need to trust Angelinos a bit, because he knows what he's doing, doesn't he? He knows what he's doing. I read in the Athletic this, Paratici has been looking to sign Drăgușin because of the Juve connection. He knew he signed up at Juve, so it never.
It's our other
goes
academy.
well. Yeah, it is our other. Juve's become our feeder club. The old lady, and all of that. And despite Steve Diver's pretenses to the otherwise, I'm pretty sure it's well documented. The Paratici is still consulting for Spurs. So there we go. Yeah. So all of that leads me to ask you, what are the predictions for this game? Jack H, give me your score and how it's going to play out.
My instincts have told me it's a draw, because I don't know that we can manufacture enough goals. But I'm going to go with Flat Cap is convincing me that Werner's going to do something for us, and he's going to have a great debut, and therefore I see us getting a 2-0 victory, just to equal the Thames. Just to. I'm sorry, I didn't see that. That's excellent. I love it. So I'll go with the same scores we had down in North London, 2-0 victory, even though my head tells me it's a draw. And quite frankly, 4 points off of Man United is success as far as our record recently with that club. 170
people watching. Firstly, all smash the like button. If you've hit the like button, I'm going to read out your score prediction if you stick it in the chat now. Jack, over to you.
Sorry, I was staring down at my phone. Prediction, I would go... It sounds overconfident, but I see us having a similar half to what Aston Villa did. Like, we just dominate them for the first 30 minutes and really make that crowd toxic and make them absolutely hate their own club. And I'm just worried that maybe a similar comeback could have happened all of a sudden again, because Ten Hag has pulled that off a few times, where it seems like right as you feel like, yep, he's getting the sack, isn't he? They're going to, they have to look towards his head. And then they pull off some magical late-minute winner or some sort of goal that really doesn't reflect the game at all, but just sort of saves them because, you're defined by your results. So I just hope that we find ourselves 2-0 up at halftime and we're actually able to cruise through there. I'm going to say 3-1 or 2-1 or something like that. Or
which
2-0.
Come on. No.
2-0. Sorry. I think we're going to have a similar half to what Aston Villa did. I really do. Like, where they just dominated.
Okay. Cameron, complete the song. Old Trafford is falling down.
I'm not going to go into. I don't have a singing voice. So.
Do you know what the next line is?
No.
Really? Jack? Either Jack.
I think I know that one.
Oh my God! If you know it in the chat, put it in there. Help them out.
I know that tune. I do know that tune.
No.
Old Trafford is falling down. Ten Hag is a fucking clown.
Yeah.
Glazers stay in 10 more years. Tottenham boys are on the beers. It's got to be the away chant, surely. Yeah, Cameron, your predictions, please.
There'll be goals. I do think it'll be 2-2. I'm a realist here. I think we'll probably start off well. There'll be changes. I think it'll be a Desmond.
You think it'll be a Desmond?
That's a good call.
No, I watched the Liverpool United game recently, and United came out and played reasonably well against Liverpool. I have this feeling they might mentally turn up to this game. But I could be wrong. I'm happy to go 2-2 and be proven very wrong.
I mean, if we win, we open an 11-point gap up to United.
That sounds beautiful.
Which, it does sound beautiful, to be honest. I think that I just wish we had a couple more players fit. That's what I wish, because there's just not a lot of depth, is there? And if I think Jack called it. We're an injury away. We're so wafer thin. If something happens to Van der Ven or Drăgușin or any of our midfielders now at this point, we are so threadbare right now. It's Ollie Skip is one game away from playing attacking midfield out wide. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win, just because it's Spurs, and I want to believe in Spurs, and I think we can do it. I think we'll outplay them. We'll absolutely outplay them. It's just whether we can
finish.
Can we finish? Can we keep the score down? We are. I think us and is it Brighton have had the most goals in our games this season. So there's going to be goals in it, almost certainly. Let's try and get through some of these predictions. Stick yours in the chat now. Kerry King saying 1-4. Sean, we see you. 4-0 Spurs. I love your optimism. Kevin saying Man United 2, Spurs 1. I'm not sure about that, Kevin. Pessimism personified. Mud FC 2-2. David Harris 3-1. Werner hat-trick. David, I know you're tongue-in-cheek most of the time, but I know you mean it today. Hoodie 2-1 Spurs. Angelo says Spurs win 2-2. Newest channel member Ali Noose, you'll win versus Sleeping United team 2-1. King Hoddle, always the voice of sanity, 2-2. Sean says 2-0 to Spurs. Jeff says 2-0 to Spurs. Daniel Levy says 2-0 again. Mircia, hope I've said that right. 3-1 to Tottenham. Werner double. David says 4-1 Spurs. Carl says 3-0 Spurs. Paul says we win and Eric Ten Hag is sacked. We want him to stay there as long as possible, I feel. Norman says 2-2. Desmond. Mark saying United 1, Spurs 2 will be all over him like a rash. I like it. Next level English will take a 0-0 with no injuries and have a defence back for Brentford. So look, Steve saying 3-0, no goal threat. Norman Lamont, former Chancellor, says, I will think it'll depend on Richie, and that's a worry. Spurs 2-1. Alex is saying 2-0 to the mighty Spurs. Sean's repeating 4-0, 4-0, 4-0. We'll absolutely take that. And Johnny Wilco says 1-4 Spurs. Yes, next level English. That is just disastrous.
That's horrendous.
We're not going to accept that. Absolutely. And Michael
he's very positive, guys.
3-1 Spurs. Thank you all for your predictions. They are much appreciated. Okay. Here's a question for you about our transfer window. I'm going to ask all of you this. Do the ENIC frothers, as it is in my run sheet, need to, do they need to pipe down a little bit? And has the club changed? We're doing business early in January. We're backing the manager. I think Big Ange just spent 150 to 200 million, depending on how you want to add it up. Admittedly, we've got quite a lot of that through the Kane money. Yeah, all right, Jack. Don't spoil the narrative. The ENIC out view has certainly quietened down recently. Is that justified? Has the leopard changed its spots? Are we now acting like a big club? Cameron, I'm going to you first, and then we're going to dot it around. And let us know what you think of this in the chat.
I think ENIC has slowly but surely come to the point of buying sensibly, recruiting and scouting sensibly as well, and put time into actually picking talent for picking the requirement, picking talent needed for each position, and they haven't blindly gone into the transfer market and go, I'll buy him. So is the leopard changing his spots? Maybe there's a couple of spots vanishing. I do think that, there seems to be a change. And I think Ange has appreciated having some scouting intelligence there where they're able to prep far more in advance for buys that are essentially for the requirement they need. So I think that, it's right that they're quietening down. And I think finally ENIC is spending sensibly and intelligently on the playing field.
Rather than off it, where we're always intelligent, right? Jack, that go-karting venue's opening up soon. That'll drum things up again. Jack H, your view?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that by the numbers, since the Tanguy window and the stadium completed, the club has been spending a lot of money. It's just spent it really, really, really poorly for many, many years. And so really, whether it's Paratici or some other element you want to assign to it, there's been a notable uptick in recruitment and identifying players that are worth spending money on. Richie, again, maybe an overbuy. We'll see with Johnson. Jury's out on him for me. But there's certainly been...
Can I just say something on Johnson? Because I see a lot of Johnson slander, and I get it because his final product hasn't been as good as it could have been, but he is very young. He's going to develop, and his raw attributes are good. I think, and I think it could go either way with him. And I know I'll disagree with HG on this because he thinks Johnson's not very good, and I know a lot of people in the chat will say the same. However, my view on Johnson is all the raw materials are there to make a fantastic player. And if you look at what he has done, he's delivered some fantastic balls into the box. The one that sticks in my mind is that delivery across for Richarlison with a fantastic finish at the near post. Last time out, I think. So he can do it. He can do it. And I think if he gets his finishing sorted out, which I know is a bigger thing than just me saying it, but I think he can be a really good player. And I'd be interested to know in the chat if you drop in your thoughts on Johnson. I think we do need to be a bit more patient with him than some people are.
100%.
Yeah, I'm willing to be patient with him. There's no question. I'm just saying the jury's out on whether or not that turns out to be a good investment of dollars. We'll see how it goes. Back to the point of whether
this is also a fair criticism, by the way. He doesn't do a lot defensively. Sorry, Jack.
Yeah.
I won't interrupt you again.
And I think that it's hard to imagine that ENIC is going to be significantly different because they're never going to outspend anyone. We're always going to be way on the other side of whatever FFP type of system we have. We've got about the 6th highest payroll average, between 5 and 8 on wage bill. We'll see where it comes out over this next couple of accounts, and it's going to be required of us to achieve above that through smart recruitment and great managers because ENIC is what they are. I mean, I don't pretend. Listen, from my view is the difference between Everton and Leeds and Tottenham is ENIC over the last 20 years. And that's it. But the reason we're not Liverpool is because of ENIC. So as a result, I have a balanced view of them. I don't have the hate. I don't have the love. They're just stewards of a club. And I hope that one day they move on, but I know we could have a lot worse. So I think they're definitely, the whole organization over the last 2 or 3 years on the recruitment side has been much better. I hope that the managerial roller coaster has gone. We've had 5 managers in 4 seasons, basically, or whatever the hell it is. I'd like to get some stability with Ange. I hope he sticks around. That's not been his modus operandi. He tends to move on, but maybe he realizes he's at the top of his career. I hope he sticks around. If he does, I'm fairly optimistic going forward. We've got the revenues, we've got young players, we've got a great coach who wants to play exciting football. So if Daniel Levy will just stay out of the way, say, here's the budget, do whatever the hell you want with it. It's Munn and Longa and Ange, you guys work it out. I'm going to work on my hotel. I'm going to work on my go-kart. I'm going to work on my whatever. That would be ideal for me.
I just hate what distresses me the most about social media and all the rest of it is the notion that there is like an ENIC out. Surely everyone wants the best for the club. But the whole ENIC out thing, it's always been a bit. I mean, I don't know myself. I've flip-flopped and got frustrated at times, and I do think you could have. I think you bob on, Jack. You could have better owners. You could have worse owners. That's the reality of it. But I don't subscribe to the view of Daniel Levy as Satan incarnate. And I certainly don't.
He's a finance guy.
Yeah, he is. He is a finance guy. He's very, very poor at self PR. Whenever it says we've got our Tottenham back and all the rest, it's just so cringeworthy.
Yeah, it is. He should just not talk.
Yeah, he should just not talk, and he tries his best not to be fair, a lot of the time. But then he gets criticised as well, doesn't he? So you can't win. I think the way they've acted recently is good because actually they've put a proper footballing structure in place. Jack, I'm spoiling your thunder, so I'm going to go to you.
That's all right. I think Levy's kind of been getting a lot of things right over the past, actually, few years, to be fair to him. Like, he built the stadium before the pandemic, which when you think about the costs and the finances of building a stadium now, it's like triple, quadruple what it used to be because of inflation, all those other things I'm not really smart enough to explain well enough. But I do know for a fact that it would have been more expensive to have built the stadium now than it would be back then. And a lot of clubs like Chelsea, for example, are struggling with that, and teams that do need to build a new stadium are struggling with sort of coming up with the money to do so. I think bringing in Paratici has saved this football club in so many different ways, and not only in terms of the recruitment, but the fact that we've actually been spending sort of, maybe we've spent around the same or, maybe a bit more, but like just spending so much smarter. Like, some of our best players in our team are all under 20 million. Pop Matasar, Udogie, Vicario. There's another one that I'm missing as well that I know is under 20 million. Bentancur is under 20 million. Other things is like he passed on Ten Hag. Like, he actually had a pretty goated opinion where
but hired Nuno.
Well, at the end of the day, he was spot on about Ten Hag. Ten Hag wasted 400 million on players that he knows very well that obviously he put in that can't play. And Ten Hag, he did say, literally said, I found the guy kind of weird, was unimpressed with his lack of English skills, and pretty much had a lot of things that were dead on about the guy. And I'm actually kind of happy he didn't bring in him. And then you look at also as well, like some of the moves of bringing in Scott Munn. The academy is the best that it's ever been. That's also because of the training complex and the stuff that they have to work with, but also because the academy has been worked on in a lot of different ways. And I just think dropping Steve Hitchen as well was a brilliant move. Like, I think he's gotten a lot of things right, like over the years, actually, Daniel Levy, funny enough. So yeah, I'm kind of can't really have that much to complain about. I think he always has his Levy-esque things that he'll do that will, of course, annoy people. But I think it's almost just comes with the character. And also quickly, from the American Yank perspective, I don't think people realize like how good you guys have it over there when it comes to when you guys can't voice complaints about owners and things like that. Like, here in America, you can have the most actual parasite of owners that only take and never do anything to put back into their teams, and they get away with it like no problem. Like, there's not even that much of a protest about it usually over here when it happens.
I don't really understand
a lot more, I would say, actually, Americans, when it comes to terrible owners. Like, we put up with a lot more.
That's weird because you're the land of the free and the home of the brave.
But our sports is socialist.
Yeah.
They are. It's a franchise system where everyone's
far more parasitic owners. Like, socialism, especially in baseball, like, it's pretty bad. And NBA is too. Like, they're all terrible, like a lot of the owners over here. I find Levy to be actually heaven in comparison.
Blimey. Talking to socialism,
I'm a Seattle Mariners fan, so that's where it comes from.
This is another thing they've got right, isn't it? £35 for a ticket to see Man City versus Spurs FA Cup 4th round, which is that's the best tie of the draw, isn't it? And juniors a tenner, so you could take your kid for £45, or you could buy a family package, which is fantastic value. £70, 2 adults and 2 kids. I mean, that's great work, isn't it? And I think that the trust have lobbied for this, and certainly helped things along as well. I think it's fantastic. No one's going to.
Will you be at the game, caller?
It's unlikely because it's a Friday night at 8 p.m. It's not easy to get there and back. And it's my daughter's birthday the day after, so and I'm working on that day, so it would be difficult to do that because it'd be difficult to get someone. Yeah, I'd have to get someone to put the kids to bed, and it's not a simple thing. I would love to go. But the answer is unfortunately probably not. I have to touch on this. A big thank you to Eric Dier. I thought the graphic from the club was pretty beautiful, actually. epitomises his almost 10 years at the club. Eric Dier, it wouldn't be right if we didn't touch on him. Jack H. I know there's a lot of Dier hate. Look, I know there's a lot of Dier hate. I know he's got the turning circle of the QE2 in his latter years. I know that he's probably not what we need for Ange's system whatsoever. But I do, as much as I do take the piss a bit, and I do, talk about his herb garden a little bit at the academy and all the rest of it. Eric Dier's been a good servant to the club, hasn't he? And he's a nice, likable, bright guy, right?
I think I love Eric Dier as a person. I think he's super smart. He's very interesting. He's got a lot of things going on outside the game. I think he'd be someone I would enjoy having dinner with. I really like Eric Dier. Very worldly. I would someone who struggles to even get a portion of another language outside of English. The fact that he speaks 5, I think he's really interesting. My son, his first ever jersey he ever bought was right after Dier's debut and his goal-scoring debut for the club. And he was the only person, I promise you, in the state of North Carolina rocking a Dier jersey in 2015. I mean, he's been a great member. He was an integral part of one of the best first teams in a generation, and I really like him. He probably should have moved on. His skill set diminished, I think, a lot over the last 24 months. There's no question about that. I wish him all the best in Germany. I hope he absolutely, does beautifully and Bayern finish second, because that fan base is a fan base I've really come to dislike significantly. Those are some salty SOBs and I'm just glad that he's there. I hope he does well and they finish second and win nothing.
Yeah. Cameron, your opportunity to deliver an Eric Dier speech.
Look, Eric, I think, yes, I echo some of the sentiments with the other guys. I think he's overstayed just that little while, but I do think he's been a loyal soldier of the club over, the hundreds of coaches that we've had over the last period of time. And he has provided me with one of my favourite memories when at Upton Park, which I think was his first game where he got that goal.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I mean, my favourite two Eric Dier memories were him running off for a shit mid-game and Mourinho chasing him down the tunnel as in the documentary, which I just, for the comedy factor. And it was his interview after the game. He was like, look, when you've got to go, you've got to go. Thankfully, it all turned out okay. And then obviously, he had the Stone Cold Steve Austin music hit the tannoy in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and he started tearing through seats to try and get to some guy who disrespected his brother, which, you can argue the rights and wrongs of it, but he's a bright guy, Eric Dier. The guy, he obviously just lost it and saw red, and I'm sure we can all relate to that at some point. When an idiot does that, it showed the human side to him. But he has given us some great memories throughout the years. I think that goal at Upton Park, yeah, absolutely, fantastic.
And I think he sincerely loves the club as well.
Oh, he does. He does. No doubt about it.
If you look at the message he did on Spurs in the last day or two, he's got some life friends there. He's obviously been in love with the club and loyal to it. And hey, if you're getting paid 80 to 90K a week, I'd be loyal as well. But you can tell he's not a mercenary. He's actually had a genuine love and appreciation for the club as well.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's leaving on bad terms.
Yeah, that was good as well when he shushed the crowd at the Emirates and his bromance with Delhi. Look, his leaving speech was a lot better than Harry Kane's. Let's be honest, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. It wasn't on a golf course.
Fair to say that I think he possibly loves the club a bit more than Harry Kane as well. But he doesn't fit Ange ball, basically. Jack, does he? And I know you're a big fan of his.
Yeah, I don't. Feel Gluck to Eric Dier, I guess. I don't know. I've been pretty harsh on him. If I'm going to be perfectly honest, I'm not sure if I can name any players I've actually hated more. My time
Hugo Lloris, Jack.
No, Eric Dier holds a real special place in that hatred heart of
mine. What, higher than Hugo?
Well, Hugo, I think, has actually put in more games of service and has actually been a better player for Spurs than Eric Dier did. I even think sort of it could be just me, but I think there's slight even revisionist history over even his good years. I think his best ever years in a Spurs shirt, he still was more or less kind of a rotation player or kind of backup under Pochettino. He never really did play ahead of Toby or Jan or anything like that. He just sort of kind of floated around various parts of the team and sort of did a job for us. And then once Toby and Jan left, he was sort of given the keys to the defense with Davinson Sanchez and others, and we were conceding close to 60 a season, since then. So I just don't think Dier for me has ever really been somebody I rated. And I think he's personally really outstayed his actual quality. I think he's not a good defender, probably shouldn't have ever even made the move to center back. He might have actually been better served elsewhere as sort of keeping his spot in midfield. But I even think the reason he lost his spot in midfield because he wasn't good enough for the midfield. So I think there are just a lot of reasons why he changed so many positions. I don't know. I'm trying to hold back from going a lot harsher, but if I'm to be perfectly honest, I'm glad to see him gone.
Look, life is about opinions. It's okay to have different opinions, and you express them eloquently. So I will let you serenade us with "I love Eric Dier, Eric Dier loves me" if you want. Jack.
I do find it funny. I mean, maybe it's the case that some people hold this opinion, but I do think it's interesting that Eric Dier seems to have gotten more of a tribute for his so-called service compared to Harry Kane. Like Harry Kane.
I think the Harry Kane's. I think there's what you can see from this, right, is two things in my opinion. So Harry Kane.
If you're going to use the word service, like when we hear service, like Harry Kane has actually served this football club.
Yeah. He's an all-time great. But I think the difference is that Harry Kane, the club didn't want to leave, and Eric Dier, they were ushering him out the door at the end of the day. And I think that they clearly, fell out with Kane a little bit in the end about him leaving. And Eric Dier, they were quite happy to release him. In effect, that's basically what we've done. I know it's a loan, but he's going to be released at the end of the contract. So that's the two sides, and it's not right in my opinion. Kane should have got a better send off, and maybe at some point in the future he will. But or maybe he'll be back. You never know. I don't think so, but you never know. But yeah, that's look, my view. I would always have a special place for Eric Dier in my heart for running off the pitch and Mourinho chasing him down the tunnel. Eric Dier loves me. Jack H, it's been an absolute pleasure to preview this with you this evening. I hope your prediction is wrong.
I had 2-0 Spurs.
Oh, I thought you had 2-2. Oh, in that case, I hope it's wrong and we're 3-0, 4-0 Spurs. Come on.
Well, I appreciate you having me. This has been a lot of fun, and I enjoy it every time you guys ask me to come on. Thank you so much.
It's the Drongo down there that predicted a 2-2, mate. I'll have a Desmond, wasn't it?
Yep. It was me, yes. So I'm expecting...
I'm hoping you're wrong, Cameron. You're wrong.
You always hope I'm wrong, and probably every Aussie team is wrong, and every other Aussie's wrong.
Happens a lot. Thanks for joining me. Been a pleasure. And Jack, it's always good to have you on. It's been a little while. Let's not leave it so long next time.
No, please don't. It's been a pleasure. Missed my chance to go down my Hitchin or Hugo rabbit hole, and then tried to go a little deep into Dier, but not too deep that I would struggle to crawl myself back out of it. So yeah, thanks for having me.
And if
I could have gone down.
Well, I gave you the opportunity and you didn't dive down the rabbit hole. And if we've entertained you for the last 90 minutes, please do consider our Patreon service where we can entertain you 24/7. Jack will do anything, including bringing you merch to your doorstep if you sign up, and entertaining you in the middle of the night because he's in American time, not British time. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you watching the Cheese Room. Please do hit the like button. Please do subscribe. There's an excellent podcast with the Trust just dropped on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all good podcast providers. So download that. We will be back on Monday when we'll be 3 points richer and we will have fixed Man United to being 11 points behind us. Thanks for watching. I loved Eric Dier. Eric Dier loves me. And come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.